We need to have a serious conversation about the red card disciplinary issue at Chelsea Football Club. Wesley Fofana's red card against Burnley last weekend was our 6th Premier League red card, our 7th if you want to include João Pedro against Benfica in the Champions League, and also Enzo Maresca's red card earlier on in the season. We are just falling apart and have no self-control when it comes to our football matches. That is nearly one sending off per month. In today's video, I'm going to go through all the list of shame, from the players from Robert Sanchez at Manchester United to Moises Caicedo at Arsenal. We're going to talk about all of those red cards and how they've cost Chelsea a key number of games, and more importantly, 15 plus points this season in winning positions. How does Liam Rosenior get the best out of this team for the remainder of these fixtures? But before we get into today's video, please make sure you subscribe, you like the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and more importantly, make sure you've got that notification bell on, because tomorrow we're doing our March fixture prediction madness. That's where I go through all the games, try and predict where we can finish in this season, in the next couple of games. How many points can we get? And do we keep our top 4/top 5 dream alive? So make sure you've got your notification bell on and make sure you come back here tomorrow for that video. But let's get straight into it, because look, we rank at the very top of the most red cards in a Premier League season. And some of these things are avoidable. Some of these red cards are avoidable. Some are a bit 50-50, but a lot of the times our red cards are just stupid, clumsy mistakes that we're making. They're absolutely clumsy mistakes. And as I said in the intro of this video, they're now costing us points. 19 points have been dropped by Chelsea. We're almost on fire. We're on 3-4 at the moment in terms of points dropped. And I always think to myself, you look back some of those fixtures, some of those games that we're going to talk about with these red cards, and you have to ask the question, if we had those 19 points, just how differently this season and our outlook on the season would be had we got those 19 points added to the points that we've got already. We wouldn't have the likes of United and Liverpool and us scrambling around for top 4, top 5. We'd be in a conversation as an Aston Villa or a Man City at the moment. So you do have to question the lack of discipline in this football club. And I want to point out, this is not a new thing. This is not a Liam Rosenior issue or an Enzo Maresca issue. This was a Maurizio Pochettino issue. This was a Graham Potter issue. And it's still an issue today. And I think, if I'm being honest, this is one of those things that, unless it gets resolved very, very quickly, because we can all, I mean, even today while I'm recording this, I think we've just been fined £350,000 for the melee and the brawl that happened at the end of the West Ham game with Marc Cucurella and Adama Traore and João Pedro. All of that, we've been fined £350. Now, that's crumbs, pennies, nothing to this football club to pay. But just in terms of self-control, understanding that we don't need to get in these situations. We don't need to make silly tackles at the Emirates. Little things like that that's cost us games in the past. Let's get straight into the first red card. September. Robert Sanchez. The 20th of September, Old Trafford. Now, at that moment, if you remember, we're in the game. We're in the game. Sanchez comes out, and I remember doing this video and thinking it wasn't Sanchez's fault entirely, but he rushes out of his goal like a headless chicken. And he comes out, makes a professional foul. We go on to lose the game. Now, I think we went down to 10 men, but I think, if I remember correctly, the substitutions that Enzo Maresca made in that game nearly made me, nearly burst a blood vessel, because they didn't make any sense, the subs. They didn't make any sense at all. And if I'm honest, I feel like that red card probably set the tone of the season. And by that, I mean that we just exploded in every single game after that. Every single game, because a week later, Trevoh Chalobah, this is literally 7 days later. 7 days later, we are beating Brighton. We're not losing. It isn't a draw. It's not a ball draw. We're winning against Brighton. We're cruising. Let's be honest. We're cruising the game. Chalobah gets a second yellow card. Why? Why, you ask? Did he need to make that tackle? Does he? We go on, we dropped 3 points that game. That game against Brighton, we dropped 3 points. And it was a second yellow. It was a tackle that I don't think Trevoh Chalobah needs to make. He panics in that situation. He doesn't need to do it. Self-control. Some of these things you can't teach on the training ground at Cobham. This is just basic mentality. Basic mentality. Stupidity. Deer in the headlights. But you have to compose yourself, especially as a defender. Now, I might let you off if you're a striker and you're defending and you're making a last-ditch tackle or whatever. But if you're a defender, cool, calm, and composed on the ball it's your forte. So you're supposed to be able to do that. Next one was João Pedro. Now, this was in the Champions League. Now, I actually think the Champions League red card, it was João Pedro. If I remember correctly, was this the one where he was like, he goes for the ball and it's like head height, and I feel like it wasn't a red card for me. It wasn't a red card. I'm not actually going to blame João Pedro for that one because I don't think it was a red card. I don't think it was a red card. That was on September 30th in the Champions League. If I've got my memory correct, I think it was the head height one where he doesn't need to the player brings his head down, which I always think is a bit dubious because what's João Pedro, is he not meant to challenge for the ball in that situation? Is he not supposed to challenge for the ball? It's not like he's put his foot really high to the point where he's trying to, De Jong, the player in a couple of years ago in the World Cup. But yeah, this is nuts. There's not much to talk about that one. But the Malo Gusto one, this is against Nottingham Forest. And then you got Moises Caicedo, Arsenal. October and November. The autumn of chaos. Let's call it that. Caicedo's against Arsenal was a rush of blood. And we'll be honest, look, we could have gone on. I still think to this day, we go on to win that game. We don't draw it. We win the game because I think we played the better football. We played the better football that day. Caicedo in himself, I think, if I'm being honest, Caicedo in himself is always a loose cannon. And we talk about all the good things about Moises Caicedo and how he's good interceptions, breaking up the play, driving forward with the ball, tackling opponent, all of those things, the good things. But all of that goes out the window for me if you can't stay on the pitch for 90 minutes plus. If you're picking up needless yellow cards for no reason. He doesn't need to do these things. Some of these tackles he's making, you're not, that one on in the Arsenal game, I don't think he's even going to get to the ball at that point. I think it's more of like a last-ditch attempt, but just don't in a high stakes game against Arsenal. We need you on the pitch, mate. Just do your job. Just do your job. You don't need to be doing that. You just don't. You don't need to be doing that. Marc, Cucurella and Fofana, Fulham, Cucurella, Burnley for Fofana recently as well. But these are games where we're dropping points and it's costing us. Like I said, we could be talking about a completely different season with these points that we've dropped. I'm thinking back to like the Leeds game, for instance, even the United game, it was just, the tactics were crazy by Maresca in that game. Burnley, we let them back in. We go down to 10 men. We let them back in with a stupid set piece. Fleming. We let him back in the game. Like these, if you want to be a serial team, a winning team, a Premier League winning team, Champions League winning team, you can't afford to keep making these same mistakes. And if you do get sent off, you have to see the game out. What I will say is, for me, Liam Rosenior in that point against Burnley, for instance, and I'll say this: Pep Guardiola, I think it's Rodri, in the game at the weekend, he gets a yellow card. I think he's trying to take on Anthony Gordon in the game. Half time, Kuznaf comes on, Rodri's out. That's just the way the game sometimes. Sometimes you've got to realize that actually I'm going to need Rodri in some games coming up. I can't afford for him to get a red card. Liam Rosenior in that situation, Wesley Fofana's on a yellow. You've got Mamadou Sarr on the bench. And I hate to say this, but you got Tosin on the bench at that point. For me to bring on Tosin ahead of Mamadou Sarr, bad mistake there, Liam Rosenior. You can't do that. You just can't do that. That's what cost us the game against Burnley. And then you come out after the game and you say an assignment was not picked up or whatever you said. Mamadou Sarr's on the bench. We got to see what he can do against Hull City. So it's things like that. Liam Rosenior has to help himself because, yes, tactically you can do as much as you want, but you've got to be able to manage the game. You've got to be able to manage the game. And the players have to stay cool, calm, and composed in difficult situations when their backs are against the wall, when they're getting scruffed by the neck, because we can't keep having this. I read that we've got as many red cards as home wins this season. I mean, if that's not a stat that you don't want, that should tell us that we need to do something. We need to change something. We can't keep going down the same rabbit hole of points dropped, red cards. And it's not just the red cards, it's the matches that the players then go on to miss. On top of the injuries that we've got currently at the squad as well. I'm thinking Lavia, Osugo. When you don't have Caicedo and your only two natural midfielders is Andre Santos and Enzo Fernandez, you're limited to your substitutions throughout the game then. So someone like Caicedo can't keep picking up silly fouls. We're lucky we've got Mamadou Sarr now, because if we hadn't, against Arsenal at the weekend, you'd be talking about a Tosin Chalobah partnership. A Badiashile, Tosin, Badiashile, Chalobah. Mamadou Sarr has to start the game against Arsenal at the weekend. No ifs, no buts. I don't care if he's not played Premier League football. He has to come into this game and he has to play alongside, if it's Trevoh, Chalobah or whoever. Mamadou Sarr has to be in the game from the start. Not a 60-minute substitution, not an 80-minute substitution. He has to be involved in the game from the very start, because if he's not, this is Arsenal Football Club. We're going to do a preview about Arsenal later in the week, but if he's not in that team, question marks Liam Rosenior. Question marks Liam Rosenior. And they're all pointed at you. Because we can't afford to lose that game on Sunday. Not because it's Arsenal, but because we need to salvage something for our season. Yes, you want to beat your rivals. You want to stop them winning the Premier League. But now we're at a point, and we're going to talk about this in tomorrow's video, so make sure you get your notifications on. March's fixtures are absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. So for the next 13 games, or wherever it is, we have to keep 11 men on the pitch. Because discipline has been a thing since this new ownership come in. And let me tell you something else before we wrap up. It's no coincidence that we no longer have experienced players in this team. And by experience, I don't just mean players of age. I'm talking about players that have been at the top level and played in the finals, played at the top with top players in top leagues at Champions League level. It's no coincidence we don't have those sort of players in our team. And now we're picking up all these red cards. It ain't no coincidence that Rudiger and Thiago Silva are no longer in this team. John Terry's, Gary Cahill's, Cesar Azpilicueta's. It's no coincidence that all of those players, our record was not that bad when they were there. Frank Lampard there. It's no coincidence that all of those players have gone. And now we're picking up the worst record of red cards in Premier League history. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And it has to change. Because if it doesn't change, with some of the fixtures that we've got coming up, it's going to be a struggle with 11 men on the pitch to get 3 points. With 10 or 9 men, you may as well get back on the team bus and go back home. That's where we are right now this season. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Are we just in free fall? Is there a disciplinary issue at Chelsea? How does Liam Rosenior and his coaching staff tackle this issue? More so for this season, but also more importantly for next season. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget, I've said it 3 times now. Get your notifications on for tomorrow's video. It's going to be a good one. We'll be back tomorrow with more content on the channel. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening.